If you keep settling for less, you will never attract the man that you deserve. Let me show you how knowing your worth changes everything. Attracting the right man is really knowing your worth. It's not about playing games. It's not about being finicky. It's not about trying to choose somebody that's not really a right fit for you. It's not about settling just for anybody. This is about embracing your values and your standards to embrace the love that you deserve. The first thing, it starts off with self-esteem. So self-esteem is one of those things where we tend to try to get it from somebody else. We try to have borrowed wisdom, borrowed emotional capacity, borrowed insight about ourselves. But self-esteem is really important when we talk about trying to find the man that you really deserve. You can't expect anybody to value you if you don't have self-esteem. Self-esteem is knowing who you are, what your non-negotiables are, and standing on that. What do you bring to the table, and your confidence overall? That is what is really the shell of having self-esteem, specifically when we're talking about finding the right man that you deserve. And I want to give a caveat as far as like what, bringing to the table, because sometimes that question is, kind of like a setup question for a lot of folks. What bringing to the table really means is you figuring out how can you be an asset to the relationship. It's not about money. It's not about, I can cook, I can clean, I'm gonna have your babies. Like it's not really any of that. It's what do you bring? What's the value that you bring that will allow you to say, okay, this is what I can do in order for us to grow. Because relationships is symbolic of growth. Two is better than one. In life, if you're trying to get somewhere quick, go by yourself. If you're trying to get somewhere far, do it with somebody else. Do it with a partner. Do it with your husband. Do it with the person you're trying to spend the rest of your life with. So you really want to spend time with yourself. This is how you build self-esteem. Spend time with yourself. You figure out what your passions are, and even your weaknesses. Because self-esteem, usually when you have typically low self-esteem, you're focused and hyper-focused on your weaknesses as opposed to your strengths. But if you're able to identify what your weaknesses actually are, game changer, because now you have the insight and you know what it is that you need to work on. The more confident you are when you talk about dating in your identity, the less likelihood that it's going to be that you're going to just settle. And you do not want to settle just because you have self-esteem issues. You don't want to settle because it's uncomfortable to be by yourself. You don't want to settle because self-esteem is something that's not permanent, but it is something that can be worked on over time. Now let's talk about boundaries. Ooh, boundaries. Come on now. Now, boundaries are not walls to keep people out, but they're really guidelines. Okay? Again, boundaries isn't walls, but they're guidelines on how you deserve to be treated. Now, these guidelines aren't set by other people. These guidelines are set by you. But if you don't have any guidelines, you don't have any standards, you don't have any expectations, not necessarily expectations for somebody else, which can be beneficial, but I'm more so talking about expectations for yourself. What are you willing to tolerate, not tolerate? What are your negotiables and non-negotiables? When you don't set boundaries, it's like allowing anybody to have access to you. Now, there's no possible way that you can seek a man to desire you if you have no boundaries. When you don't have boundaries, it again, literally allowing other people to have access to you, but it's also the fast track to an unhealthy relationship. If you want to get to an unhealthy relationship fast, quick, in a hurry, have no boundaries. If you want a fast track to an unhealthy relationship, allow anybody to have access to you. Point blank, period. Allow people to have access to you. Because what that's going to do in the long run is going to put you in a position where you are now not living for yourself. You're living based on the guidelines of other people, and you're pretty much a people pleaser. You're doing everything for everybody except yourself. So if you're trying to attract the man you desire, be sure to have boundaries set in place. And I would encourage you to have them already set up as opposed to be in the relationship and then try to set them. Because if you're already in a relationship with a man or you guys are already dating or whatever it may be, it's very hard to backtrack. It's very hard to backtrack and say, oh, well, now I have boundaries around this, or now I no longer want to do this anymore, because the man is probably with you because you had no boundaries around that before. So it changes the whole dynamic up. Now, that shouldn't discourage you to set boundaries while you're in a relationship, because you may identify you don't like certain things, because now since you've been exposed to it, you like, okay, I don't want to tolerate that no more. So it shouldn't discourage you to do it, but it's easier and more fluid when you have boundaries already set in place. So remember to say no to things that do not align with your values, and start to say yes to the things that you love. And the things that you should love are the things that you love about yourself. Now, here's the honest truth as well, is that your personal value isn't determined off of what somebody else sees. It's really based on how you see yourself. It's important to know personal value when you're talking about trying to find a man that you desire, not settling, and knowing your worth in these relationships or even in the dating space. And this comes with the question of, what is it that you're looking for in a partner? Not necessarily what other people see, but what is it that you really want? What is it that you value in relationships? Because what you value in relationships may not be what somebody else values in a relationship. So this also goes along even deeper. Do you hold those same values for yourself? Because you can be hypocritical and want something that you're not doing yourself. This happens a lot in relationships where you end up getting with somebody that is doing something that you can't do for yourself. So knowing this is super important, your personal value, because you're not codependent on this person and you're not settling, because they may be able to do things that you're not able to do for yourself, but that allows you to settle because now you're not taking in your personal growth and your personal values to actually work on the thing that you're not able to do for yourself. And now you're dependent on somebody else to do it, which is, again, a fast track to an unhealthy relationship. Now, if you find yourself attracting the wrong man over and over and over again, recognize the patterns that you're set up in. What is the things that keep leading you into these unhealthy relationships with men? I know it's easy to say, oh, men ain't this, men ain't that, or, there are no good men out there. But thinking about the pattern of behavior, what is leading you to actually find the same genre, the same themes in your dating world? Because I'm here to tell you, it's not the men that you're dating, it's the men that you're attracting. I know that may be hard to hear. It's not the men that are out there, but it's the men that you are seeking or you're attracting. Because you have to really ask these questions of like, okay, am I ignoring the red flags? Am I scared to be alone? Am I prioritizing potential over who they actually are? And if you're dating potential, that is a huge red flag, because you may be able to see something in somebody that they can't see for themselves. And when you do that, it then leads into you trying to date a person that doesn't actually exist. So breaking the cycle is really you being real with yourself and acknowledging that you are the issue instead of the men that you've been dating being the issue. Accountability is not the best thing and it hurts sometimes, but if you're in that pattern, you have to put the mirror up and look and see what is it about you that is attracting those unhealthy relationships. Finally, focus on becoming the person that you will want to attract. You can't attract something that you're not. Because if you want somebody to be kind to you, you want somebody to be driven, you want somebody to be emotionally available, you have to make sure you have those traits as well too. Because you may not be cultivating those things within yourself and taking care of yourself. And even this leads to what I was saying before, is making sure that you're not in a relationship because you're looking for somebody to do something for yourself, but it's things that you actually are or have already been doing for yourself. By doing this, you draw the right people and you're not gonna have any issues finding the man that you desire. If this was helpful, make sure you share this with somebody. Make sure you share this with your girlfriends or your mom, your sister, whoever it may be, or somebody that you know is possibly trying to find the right man in their life. I appreciate y'all for tapping in. Y'all take care. Peace.